Welcome. It is Verdict with Senator Ted Cruz. Ben Ferguson with you. It's nice to have you with us. And if you're watching us on YouTube, also really nice to have you with us on YouTube and on Facebook, as we're doing a lot of these shows now on video as well. Senator, we've got a lot to talk about. This is like on my bingo card today. I did not have, we're going to talk about the Muslim Brotherhood gambling, but that is the show tonight. It's going to be really fun.
Yeah, we're talking about the Muslim Brotherhood. Texas is leading the way. And this week, the state of Texas, the governor, designated the Muslim Brotherhood, designated CAIR as terrorist organizations. That's something I've been fighting for a decade to get the federal government to do. It's something I believe President Trump will do, but Texas leading the way, I think, is a very important step moving forward. I want to commend the governor in the state of Texas. We're going to break that down, tell you why that matters. We're also going to talk about an investigation that I've launched in the Senate Commerce Committee into gambling in professional sports. And we've seen the scandal at the NBA of NBA players and coaches engaged in and being indicted for and prosecuted for illicit gambling, and also the scandal in Major League Baseball and the challenge that the explosion of gambling has had with incentivizing players to engage in cheating. The Senate Commerce Committee has jurisdiction over sports. We're investigating it. We're going to explain to you all about that.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how that works out. We'll have those details for you in a second. All right, I got to tell you about a really amazing opportunity, and it's something that you might want to be talking about with your family over the holidays, and it's the ability to learn for free at Hillsdale College. Right now at hillsdale.edu/verdict, you can enroll in more than 40 free online courses, and there is no cost. It's easy to get started, and you can learn at your own pace. Now, these are incredible classes, and I'll say it again. It is free if you go to hillsdale.edu/verdict to enroll. You're going to get more than 40 different classes you can take, including a course on C.S. Lewis, the stories of the book of Genesis, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, and you can go even deeper on the American Foundation and the Constitution, all of this for free. I'm doing Constitution 101 again because, look, I've taken constitutional law. I've taken class on the Constitution. It's amazing how much you can still learn. To me, it's almost like the Bible. You can read it over and over again, and you learn something new every single time. And that is the reason why we want you to take advantage of this amazing opportunity from Hillsdale College, our friends, to take these types of classes. They also have classes on America, the starting of this country, socialism and communism 101, so you understand it. It is truly amazing. So check out the classes right now and enroll for free. The only way to do it, hillsdale.edu/verdict to enroll, no cost, and it's easy to get started, and it's self-paced learning. If you want to take these classes and go all day, you can do that. Or if it's every week or so, it doesn't matter. You learn at your own pace, and it's amazing. So thank you to the people at Hillsdale, hillsdale.edu/verdict. All right, Senator, so let's get into the topic number one. This is something that you've been talking about for a while.
Yep.
Designating the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, and Texas is now taking a big step. I think this is going to be a great example for the rest of the country, and talk about how big of a victory this is, and Texas leading the way.
Well, it's a big victory. Let me tell you about what Texas did, and I'm going to take it more broadly into the national fight over designating the Muslim Brotherhood. So Texas this week declared CAIR and the Muslim Brotherhood as terrorist groups preventing land purchases. Let me read from Fox News. Texas Governor Greg Abbott designated the Council on American-Islamic Relations, CAIR, and the Muslim Brotherhood as foreign terrorist and transnational criminal organizations Tuesday, preventing both groups from obtaining land in the Lone Star State. Abbott said in a statement that he made the move as, quote, the Muslim Brotherhood and CAIR have long made their goals clear, to forcibly impose Sharia law and establish Islam's mastership of the world. The actions taken by the Muslim Brotherhood and CAIR to support terrorism across the globe and subvert our laws through violence, intimidation, and harassment are unacceptable. Today, I designated the Muslim Brotherhood and CAIR as foreign terrorist organizations and transnational criminal organizations. These radical extremists are not welcome in our state and are now prohibited from acquiring any real property interest in Texas. A proclamation signed by Abbott claims that CAIR, quote, is an Islamist organization that, according to the FBI, was founded as a front group for Hamas and its support network in the United States. It added that, quote, CAIR and its members have repeatedly employed, affiliated with, and supported individuals promoting terrorism-related activities including Ghassan Elashi, a founding member of the Texas branch for CAIR and treasurer of the Holy Land Foundation for Relief and Development Charity, quote, who was sentenced to a total of 65 years in prison for financing terrorism in 2009. The proclamation also states that Hamas was, quote, formed in 1987 as the Palestinian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, and that activities of the Muslim Brotherhood branches have similarly been eliminated or prohibited by the governments of Austria, Bahrain, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates in light of the Muslim Brotherhood encouraging terrorism or attempting to destabilize these countries. Look, this is real leadership from the state of Texas. It is what the federal government should be doing. The Muslim Brotherhood, I believe, is unquestionably a terrorist organization. And we have yet to designate them, as Governor Abbott noted. Many other countries on earth have, and I believe the United States, during the Trump administration, we're going to do this. I've introduced legislation literally for 10 years to make this happen at a federal level.
So what has been the holdup there for people that are new to this subject? We've talked about before, maybe they missed an episode. How the hell is it so hard to get the Muslim Brotherhood to be declared a terrorist organization through the U.S. government? What is the holdup? You mentioned it. This is like a decades-long fight now.
So for 5 consecutive Congresses, I've introduced legislation to designate the Muslim Brotherhood. The holdup, we got very close during the first Trump administration. I thought we were going to get it done during the first Trump administration. The resistance was from the deep state at the State Department, the career bureaucrats there. And I'll tell you, the old versions of the legislation, the way I wrote it, it was top down. What does that mean? It directed the State Department to designate the Global Muslim Brotherhood, which is the big umbrella organization, as a terrorist organization. Here's the argument the career employees at State made. They said, look, there are lots of different affiliates of the Muslim Brotherhood. We cannot definitively prove that every one of the affiliates meets the statutory criteria for being a terrorist organization. That's how they stopped it from happening in Trump 1. So in Trump 2, I rewrote the legislation. And instead of being bottom down or top down, I rewrote it to be bottom up. And so what the legislation currently says is it says that the State Department should designate every one of the Muslim Brotherhood affiliates for which the evidence is clear and unequivocal as terrorist organizations. For example, Hamas. Hamas is the Muslim Brotherhood in Palestine. It is indisputable that Hamas is a terrorist organization. They carried out October 7th, murdered 1,200 Israelis, raped and murdered women and little girls. Hamas is unquestionably a terrorist organization. That's true of multiple Muslim Brotherhood affiliates. What my new legislation said is designate those affiliates, and then it directs the State Department to designate the Global Muslim Brotherhood because it gives money to those affiliates, and so designate the umbrella organization for material support of, for giving money to unquestionable terrorist organizations. Now, part of the reason I think we're going to get this done is that chain of reasoning. There's not a step in that reasoning that is assailable. The deep state can't fight that. But at the end of the day, let me tell you, this is not going to be a fight, I think, that is won legislatively. So I've introduced the legislation. I tried very, very hard in this Congress to get a Democrat to support me. I will tell you, I talked to numerous Democrats. They said no. They said no. Look, the Democrat Party is very afraid, unfortunately, of disturbing the pro-Hamas wing of their party. In the House, the companion legislation to my legislation has 4 Democrats on board, so we do have some Democrat support. I was able to get 1 Democrat, so John Fetterman is supporting me. So the legislation is Cruz Fetterman. It is bipartisan.
By the way, can we just pause there and just talk about how cool that is? The more that we have interacted, that you've interacted with John, the more respect I really do have for him as a Democrat. The way he stood up to his party on the shutdown. Look, there are some places where you don't win races. I never thought I would say I am thankful for John Fetterman and his leadership in the Senate when he was first elected. I got to tell you, he may be the biggest surprise in the last decade for me of a true Democrat statesman that is willing to come to the table on sane issues like the government shutdown or like this. And I think when this happens, we as conservatives should take that moment and say, job well done to Senator Fetterman. I'm really impressed because there's a lot of issues. He says politics are aside. I don't care the heat I'm going to get from my party for this. I'm going to do the right thing. We used to have a lot more of that in politics.
Yeah, it used to be much more commonplace. When I showed up in the Senate 13 years ago, there was such a thing as moderate Democrats. They largely don't exist. Actually, someone before that was Kyrsten Sinema. Kyrsten Sinema was elected from Arizona. When she came in, there was not a whole lot of reason to believe she would be a moderate. And I will say, Kyrsten, I really like Kyrsten. She stood up to her party. She demonstrated real courage. And you know what happened? The Democrats chased her out of the party. Both Sinema and Joe Manchin, who were the only two Democrats who said no to eliminating the filibuster, the Democrats chased both of them out of the party. They said, we don't want any dissent. You must obey the dictates of the radical left. Well, John Fetterman got elected, and listen, you and I both did not support him when he was running for the Senate to begin with. He was a Democrat. And his prior record as lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania gave little reason to think that he would be anything other than a left-wing Democrat. That's certainly what I anticipated. He has astonished me. I like John personally. He obviously, during the campaign, suffered a stroke. He had serious medical issues. It was very difficult. His mind could not process the spoken word. So when he was newly elected, you would talk to him, but he would carry around an iPad that translated the words that are being said into text. And he would have to read the iPad because it was just one of the consequences of the stroke, that when you talked to him, his brain was operating, but the input of the oral spoken word did not make it through. I will say his health has improved significantly. He's now able to have a conversation and engage, so the aftermath of the stroke, thankfully, has gotten better. But Fetterman has shown real courage in standing up to his party. On the shutdown, he stood up to Schumer and said, this shutdown is stupid. We need to end the shutdown. And on Israel, the level of courage he has shown by saying the pro-Hamas wing of our party is wrong, it is terrible, and I, John Fetterman, are proud to stand with Israel. It's been heroic, and I got to say he's been demonized by his own party. The Democrats, they treat him terribly. The Republicans in the Senate treat him much better than the Democrats do.
Well, and not only demonize him, this goes back to his civility. He had a fall this past week, and Democrats were cheering his fall before we even knew his health. Now, he put up a picture of himself. I was glad to see he's going to be okay. But it just tells you about how much, if you don't get in line with the Democratic Party, it doesn't matter if your name's Fetterman or Schumer at this point, or Nancy Pelosi. It is off with your heads in the Democratic Party as a leadership perspective from them. They are done with you if you are not going to the extreme left on every issue.
So, Ben, it's worse than that. When Fetterman newly arrived in the Senate, the Democrats all assumed he would just be a left-wing reliable vote. And so you had all the Democrats putting out statement, he's fine, his health is not a problem. And as I said, the stroke had very real and limiting effects on him. I mean, it was significant. But every Democrat defended him. And then as his health started to get better, he was willing to buck the Democrats. And if you disagree with the Democrat Party line on even one issue, but especially on an issue like the current Democrat Party's embrace of Hamas and their anti-Israel animus, they turned on him viciously. And I got to tell you, there have been dozens of articles written with quotes from Democrat senators, Democrat staffers, just doing everything they could to shiv him, to say, to actually attack his mental capability and say, oh, he's not able to do the job. The irony is, they attacked him once he had improved significantly and was recovering, but yet in their view, the unforgivable sin was daring to deviate from what every other Democrat was saying. And I view Fetterman as the exception that proves the rule. That being said, this legislation to designate the Muslim Brotherhood at the national level, it's Cruz Fetterman, to pass, we would need 60 senators. That would mean we would need at least 7 Democrats. I have no indication that 7 Democrats are likely to support this. I'm going to try. I'm going to keep pressing it. We'll see. We'll put it for a vote. I would love to have that bipartisan support, but as of now, I've not been able to get any other Democrat
how
other than
discouraging
Fetterman.
is it? I mean, when you ran for Senate, several years ago, did you ever think you would govern in a body, work with a group of people where you can't even get agreement on designating a terrorist organization?
Oh, look, partisan politics has always been part of Washington. That being said, it's gotten much, much worse. And actually, when President Trump got elected in 2016, it broke the heads of the Democrats. Their minds are melted. They just hate him. And so there's much less middle ground. But anyway, my strategy on the Muslim Brotherhood legislation is not necessarily to pass it through Congress, although I'd love to. I'm going to continue trying to pass it through Congress. But it is instead to build the public case for this so that the Trump administration does so unilaterally. They have the authority to do so. There's no dispute. As I said, in Trump 1, we almost got it done. And I believe that President Trump will do so. I think he'll do so probably in the next year. I was in the White House just a couple of weeks ago. I talked with the president directly about designating the Muslim Brotherhood. I have met with Seb Gorka, who is the senior official in the National Security Council who's handling this issue. I've talked with Seb about it. I believe the Trump administration will do it this time. I think the fact that we redesigned it to be bottom up is going to make it much harder for the deep state to oppose it. And I want to commend Greg Abbott in the state of Texas, because Texas is designating the Muslim Brotherhood, and CAIR as well really helps for building the momentum. The whole purpose of the legislative push is to build the momentum to provide the air cover for the Trump administration to do so, and I think that's going to happen.
All right. I also want to bring up CAIR, and this is another aspect of this legislation in Texas, making it clear it's not just the Muslim Brotherhood, it's also CAIR. This one's a little bit more of a complicated organization. Break that down, why they're also getting on the list.
Yeah, it's not actually that complicated. I mean, CAIR is a domestic organization. They have previously been implicated in supporting Hamas, supporting other terrorist organizations. Let me read a story from the New York Post. It's entitled "Muslim Group CAIR Cutting $1,000 Checks for Anti-Israel Agitators Who Have Been Disciplined by Colleges." And here's what the New York Post reported. Anti-Israel agitators who spread disruption at U.S. colleges and were punished by authorities were awarded checks for $1,000 by a Muslim nonprofit, the Post has learned. The money was given to students who faced penalties for leading pro-Palestinian protests before and after the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7, 2023, according to a bombshell report by the Network Contagion Research Institute and the Intelligent Advocacy Network. The cash was awarded from a, quote, Champions of Justice Fund set up by a California chapter of the Council on American-Islamic Relations, CAIR, as an institutional endorsement, the report claims. In California, the largest arm of the CAIR web of nonprofits, affiliates in San Francisco and Los Angeles, raised more than $100,000 in donations for the campus radicals, while the main group solicited $64,000 in donations, records show. The money was then offered as interest-free loans in grants of $1,000 to students who lost scholarships, housing, or other support because of their advocacy, according to CAIR's website. This is, you have CAIR literally, you want to know why you had anti-Semitic protests on college campuses. I've been saying from the beginning, follow the money. There's clear money behind it.
Follow the money.
The tents all matched, and it's because this is being funded, and this is being funded by Islamists, this is being funded by communists, this is being funded by foreign nations, this is being funded by left-wing billionaire donors who frankly want to undermine America. And so Texas designating CAIR as well, that's a big step forward also.
I want you to just pause what you're doing for the next 60 seconds. And I want you to imagine Lucy, a 7-year-old. Her stomach often aches with hunger. Her small hands, instead of holding crayons, know only the struggle of survival on dusty streets. School is a distant dream. Medical care, a forgotten hope. Lucy's potential is overshadowed. Her future is dim. But what if someone stepped in? What if there was a way to ignite hope for children just like Lucy? Well, there is. And that is with Compassion International Partners and the local churches that provide children holistic support. More than just food. They receive critical medical care, life-changing education, vital skills training, and spiritual development, all in Jesus' name. And you can empower a child just like Lucy to break free from poverty. I want you to do what I've done and sponsor a child today. You can visit compassion.com. That's compassion.com. I want to move to another issue, and that is sports gambling. This is a issue I just genuinely, this is like my TMZ, my soap opera. I'm loving watching the corruption slowly unfold before our very eyes. I say that because I'm a sports fan. You are as well. We've gone to games together. We've gone to playoff games. And I've noticed, and I've got friends that literally play pro sports, and they will watch games and they'll text them like, "That's not normal. That was weird. The end of that game was strange. Look at the point spread. What the gambling line was here. Look at the over under." I mean, I have friends that are in these sports, and they're like, they even are like, "This is a red flag. Like, this doesn't make sense. What just happened in the last 2 minutes of the game or the last 4 minutes of that game?" And now we're finding out we weren't crazy.
Yep.
There's a lot of fixing that's going on. Now, it may not be fixing the outcome of the winner and the loser, and that's what people need to understand, the caveat here. A lot of times this is like total number of points that are going to be scored.
Yep.
The margin between the two teams, how much will one win by or losing. It can even be as simple as a certain player not hitting what they were projected in points or three-pointers or even free throws. And you see these anomalies or weird things that happen with an individual player or faking an injury so that they make sure they don't finish the game. This was happening in a widespread way among sports, and there were people that were literally getting rich off it. It's called fixing. It may not be fixing the game as in a score. It's fixing aspects of the game that you can bet on.
Well, look, you and I are both big sports fans. Sports is an amazing thing. It brings people together. It gives you something to cheer for. It's powerful. It can unify.
It's so fun.
But, look, unfortunately, as long as there's been sports, there's been some risk of corruption in sports. And I got to say, the proliferation of betting on sports has increased that risk. And it's not just betting. It's one thing to bet that your team's going to win or lose. Yeah. Presumably, if you're betting particularly that your team will win, the incentives are aligned that all the members of the team want to win. But you now have these prop bets where you can bet on all sorts of different aspects of the game. And that, I think, significantly increases the risk of corruption because a prop bet, an individual player can have really significant impact on the outcome of that bet. And so we've seen there's an ongoing criminal investigation involving the NBA, involving coaches and players, fixing games, and Major League Baseball as well. And so I'm chairman of the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation. Part of the jurisdiction of the Commerce Committee is sports, both college sports and pro sports. And so I've launched an oversight investigation into the problem of corruption and the impact of prop bets in particular on sports. And so I want to read to you a portion of, I sent a letter to Major League Baseball, and let me just read you a portion of it because the facts are really concerning. Here's what my letter said. Dear Mr. Manfred, game-fixing allegations are not new to baseball. 105 years ago, a Chicago grand jury indicted 8 Chicago White Sox players for allegedly rigging the 1919 World Series. Labeled the Chicago Black Sox in the press, the players were eventually acquitted by a Chicago jury, even though some had earlier confessed, and all 8 were banned from baseball for life. Major League Baseball and American sports generally are facing a new integrity crisis. Last week, prosecutors in the Eastern District of New York unsealed an indictment against 2 pitchers for the Cleveland Guardians, accusing them of rigging their own pitches to make a profit. That indictment comes just a few weeks after prosecutors leveled similar allegations against coaches and players in the NBA. Ranking Member Cantwell and I sent a letter to the NBA requesting documents and information about that matter, and we now seek information from Major League Baseball about how the league is addressing alleged game manipulation and threats to baseball's integrity. The recent indictment alleges Cleveland Guardians players Emmanuel Clace and Luis Ortiz purposely threw certain pitches for balls or strikes.
Yep.
Both players allegedly told friends of their plan and to place prop bets beforehand. Clace allegedly even made some bets himself. Perhaps most shockingly, this scheme lasted more than 2 years before Major League Baseball found out. On May 19, 2023, Clace, pitching in relief against the New York Mets, allegedly informed friends he would throw a pitch faster than 94.95 miles per hour. He did, and his accomplices won $27,000.
I mean, can you just hit pause there for a second, this letter, so people understand? This is like making a mockery of the game, but It's also just fixing the game where you're like, hey, I'm going to perform differently so that my friends can get hooked up and make $27,000 there. It went on for years, and it's not like this was like one person.
Yeah,
I actually believe this
yes.
is probably a lot more widespread than we are being told. And part of that is I think that Major League Baseball and others are going to cover their AWSs. They want to make sure that we don't realize just how bad it actually was or is.
Well, and with individual players and prop bets, they have almost total control over the outcome of that bet.
Yep.
And so, look, the $27,000 is not the worst part. Let me give you a few more of the facts from the letter. Clace would go on to blow a save opportunity as the Guardians lost 10-9 in extra innings. In June 2023, Clace flung a pitch into the dirt in 2 separate games, well short of the strike zone. While Cleveland fans were shouting in frustration, Clace was apparently cashing in. In both games, he allegedly sent texts notifying his friends that he would throw balls. They placed prop bets on his pitches, winning a combined $96,000.
Unbelievable.
Across other games from 2023 to 2025, Clace and his accomplices are accused of winning at least $400,000 through fraudulent bets.
I mean, that's a lot of money, folks. And that's just one example that got busted. You got to wonder how many others are out there, right? I mean, we've seen what's interesting. I was reading a article the other day. It was talking about there's been an uptick in wild pitches.
Yeah.
Because you can bet on that. And they're just saying there is certain data that is significantly changed since prop betting got introduced nationwide, basically, where everybody can bet on these things, and has grown. And it's like that didn't happen for 50 years of baseball before when we have data, or 30 years in football of data, or whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden they're like, wow, this is happening a lot more often. This is weird that they would get worse at these anomalies when technology and cameras and coaching has gotten so much better. You'd think that would actually reduce the number of these unique moments that happen in sports. And now we're finding out, it may not be unique at all.
Well, and negative prop bets are 100% within the control of an individual player. So if you think about it, if you or I were a major league pitcher, we may not be able to win a bet that my next pitch will be a strike, because you might try to throw a strike and fail.
Yeah.
I could not throw a major league strike. But you know what you and I could win a bet on? That my next pitch will be a ball.
Yeah.
Because as much like I suck at baseball, but yet I can throw the ball into the dirt. I'm quite confident I can pitch a ball. I could pitch a ball 100% of the time with no deviation. And some of the times, and in this instance, someone who's good at cheating would not pound it into the dirt. They would just be a little bit outside the strike zone so you couldn't tell. It looks really obvious when you don't even make it to home plate. But that problem, look, you were a Division I tennis player. I'm pretty sure they didn't have prop bets.
I promise you I could double fault on command. I could hit a ball long on command.
100% of the time.
In the net on command. I could whiff at a ball if that was a prop bet and make money off of it. Yes. All of those things you can 100%.
By the way,
control.
I want our listeners to know, if you also get in Ben's head and screw with him, you can make him double fault even when he doesn't want to. But that's a totally different. He's an infinitely better tennis player than I am, but I do have a little bit of ability to taunt him, and if he gets pissed enough, that can happen.
Either that or you're going to get hit with the ball. It's one of the two. One of the two is going to happen.
Well,
one of the two, and that would be a great prop bet, by the way.
Okay, there is that. Although the sad thing is, when Ben and I play tennis, we usually play together. So if he's hitting me with the ball, he's really doing it wrong, because it's one thing to hit your opponent. If you're hitting your teammate, good God, you're doing it wrong.
It's only when you get lackadaisical can you become a target. It's just motivation. It's just a straight up motivation there. Final question on this. I've seen a lot of people in sports, journalists say, how do you fix this? If it's not saying no more prop bets, right? You have normal gambling on games. Like, I don't know if you can even fix this. Is that far out of control? And is it the job of Major League Sports to police their own, or can they be trusted?
Look, I think there need to be some steps taken to fix this. I'm not sure exactly what those steps are. And so I'm starting with sending letters to the NBA and Major League Baseball, because you've got scandals in both sports. And Listen, as you know, I'm a diehard Rockets fan. I'm a diehard Astros fan. By the way, did you happen to see the Rockets' last victory against Orlando?
No, I did not. Was it a beatdown?
Oh, no. It was an overtime victory. It was spectacular. Look, the Rockets actually were trailing almost the entire regular season. And I DVR every Rockets game, and so I watch this. I actually watched this.
By the way, you haven't mentioned my Ole Miss Rebels in a few weeks, and I just want everybody to know that's because we're winning and we're now, 10-1? I think that's right. Just want to throw that out there. Beat the Gators. Now back to your Rockets. But when my team loses one game this year, there's 2 shows in a row that it was brought up. The other 10 weeks, not a peep out of you. I just want to be clear about that record. Keep going.
Look, I got to say, as a Texan beating the Gators, I'm kind of like, that's interesting.
That's interesting.
One of my favorite images when Florida played A&M, I tweeted out there was a giant barbecue truck in College Station that had, I think, 5 7-foot gators on a rotisserie rotating around being cooked. So okay, fine. I'm glad you guys beat the Gators. That's fine.
Okay, good. Thank you for that moral support there. I felt that. I felt that tonight.
I'm just saying that the Rockets' win against Orlando was really sweet because we were not playing great during the whole of the game, and then it was this huge comeback. And KD, I'm going to say right now, I think the Rockets can win the whole damn thing. I mean, we've
really?
got
That's an early season prediction right there.
Now, look, most seasons I think the Rockets can win it all, but listen, last season we got
said it the way you just said it with me. Like there's hoping, and then there's like the real possibility. So you think they're the real deal this year?
I really do. They've got a ton of young talent. They're really good. Our problem last season is we didn't have a closer. We didn't have someone who, in the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, you could give the ball to, and he could bring it home. And KD, I mean, look, he's one of the greatest players in history. And in the game against Orlando, I mean, it was, you want to talk about cold. He hit 2 3-pointers that were just devastating. And you had Şengün, who's a great center, who played a great game as well. But
did you have a prop bet on that overtime, by the way? I'm just curious because you're really into this right now.
I didn't. I just had great joy, and as I said, I DVR the games and I watch them typically late at night at the end of the day. But anyway, my point is, it's one thing, and I will say I like to play poker, but I've never been into sports betting. So among vices that is not one that has impacted me. But I get, I'll put $5 in a March Madness pool, and I got to say my picks are almost always wrong, so I don't know that I've ever won a March Madness pool, but I'll throw away my $5.
You're what we refer to as a charity bracket, and we appreciate your service to the charity community.
Okay, so I just pick a homer thing. I pick Texas teams. I pick teams I like, and I'm just like, I'm going to go with, I think my Final Four a year or two ago was, I think, 3 Texas teams in the Final Four.
Yeah, that didn't work out too well for you, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Excuse me. Did Ole Miss win the tournament?
No, we do football very well, sir. Okay. We do football very well. We win natties in golf, baseball, and tennis. I know where I am. I know where we live. Basketball's not there yet. I'm okay with that. But I don't pick them to go to the Final Four. That I can promise you.
Yeah, so look, on the question of gambling, and by the way, you got pro sports, but I'm also concerned about college sports. And in many ways, with such a proliferation, you look at a small school with a game that's not in the headlines, and an individual player there, you may have, it's one thing for, am I that worried about massive superstars making millions or tens of millions of dollars of being corrupted? Well, yes, because we're seeing this in the NBA and Major League Baseball. But the incentive is less than some, 19-year-old kid playing at Podunk School who has a chance to make 10 grand fixing the game. And so I think that is a real challenge. I think the leagues can maybe take some steps about it, but it would not surprise me to see Congress act. And it's one of the reasons I'm just trying to start with saying, okay, tell me the facts of how many allegations you're getting of cheating. What are the facts?
Tell me what you know.
Tell me what you know, and then particularly the more serious the problem is, my hope is we may see Congress act in a bipartisan way to fix it.
It's going to be very interesting. Don't forget, we do the show Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Hit that subscribe or auto-download button on those in-between days. Grab my podcast, the 47 Morning Update. You'll get the biggest news coming out of the White House each day, and the Ben Ferguson podcast as well. And I'll give you the other breaking news of the day. So grab those. The Senator and I will see you back here in a couple of days.